At odds for decades, 2007 was a year of heated rhetoric for Iran and the US. Despite a recent intelligence report throwing cold water on Washington's claims that Tehran is a threat, the Bush administration remains adamant. So, are the two countries heading towards more confrontation or smoother relations in the year ahead? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Imran Garda. It was one of three countries the US President George Bush branded as the axis of evil. Iran has been at odds with the United States since the Islamic Revolution back in 1979. The confrontation, though, has reached a whole new level after Tehran unveiled plans to enrich uranium for what it says is a peaceful nuclear program. Washington didn't buy this argument and insists Tehran is pursuing a secretive nuclear weapons program and keeps warning that any such activities must not be allowed. But in early December, a national intelligence estimate on Iran says the country suspended its nuclear weapons program in 2003. The report was a stark reversal of previous intelligence assessments that Iran was actively moving towards a bomb. Official US foreign policy on Iran has been based on a 2005 estimate which said Iran was determined, as we said earlier, to develop nuclear weapons and progressing in that direction. Yet President George Bush keeps talking about Iran as a threat to world security.
Iran was a threat, Iran is a threat to peace, and Iran will be a threat to peace if we don't stop their enrichment facilities. I said that because there are three components to a nuclear weapons program. The first component is having the materials necessary to make a bomb. And you can either purchase materials that have already been processed, or you can learn how to process yourself. That's the enrichment component. That program is still active, in spite of the fact that most of the world has said to the Iranians, stop your enrichment.
Well, joining us now are our guests in Doha, Edmund Gharib, Professor of International Relations at Georgetown University. Also in Doha, Hassan Nafi', Professor of Political Science at Cairo University and the Secretary General of the Arab Thought Forum. And in Tehran, Sadiq Zibakalam, Professor of Political Science at Tehran University. Welcome to the program, gentlemen. Mr. Gharib, if I could start off with you first. Were the rules of the game changed by that report, that intelligence report in December? How would you assess US-Iran relations in 2007 up to December, and then after December, after that report?
Well, over the last year or so, we have seen actually a lot of mixed signals coming from Washington. In the beginning of the year, as you have said, there has been a great deal of harsh rhetoric coming out of Washington. In fact, as President Bush said, that he was worried about even the possibility of the Third World War concerning Iraq's weapons, if Iran has the capability to produce weapons of mass destruction. And then there were a lot of tough statements coming out from Washington, from Congress, from the presidential candidates. And then recently, in the more recent period, after the report, we have seen sort of a lessening of the tension. So the report, which has been and remains a controversial one and raises a lot of questions about its significance, about the way it came about, nevertheless, this report has helped reduce the tensions, and it has weakened or undermined the effort of Washington for at least a military confrontation, and certainly for the push for sanctions on Iran in the near future. The question is, what was the purpose behind it? Why did it come out now? There are those who see that this was an effort by the intelligence agencies and the military officials who did not want to repeat what happened with Iraq, who wanted to also assert themselves and say basically that the situation with Iran is different and that they don't accept the statements that have been coming out or had been coming out from the administration. This is one perspective. Another perspective, however, says that the administration itself may have allowed this to come out at the time it did, because it did want to send a message to Tehran, and that there is a chance for reaching a settlement with Tehran, for reaching a deal over a number of issues. And in fact, may have been response to an interview that was given much earlier, a few months earlier, by Mohsen Rizai, who is one of the leaders of the Revolutionary Guard, who also sent conciliatory messages in an interview with Time magazine to the United States government, in which he said that Iran is willing to give and take. Iran is willing, could help the United States with the Shiite parties and militias in Iraq, and also with Taliban, and maybe even in Lebanon and other areas. So there may be something that's going on in this area as well.
Well, let's bring in Mr. Zibak Kalam. Interesting assessment there, Mr. Gharib. Mr. Zibak Kalam, do you agree that this report was a turning point? Because it does seem as if it's going to be very hard for the US now to get more sanctions approved through the Security Council.
I think the report was a turning point because it basically said what Iranian leaders have been saying all along, that we are not pursuing to build a nuclear atomic bomb, a nuclear device. But unfortunately, from the Iranian point of view, the Bush's administration hostility towards Iran has nonetheless been continuing, even though the report actually give Iran a completely bill of safety. Now, everyone knows that the nuclear issue, maybe it was just an excuse for the United States to pursue its hostile policy towards Iran, because we have been observing during the past 3 decades, more or less, that United States have all the time maintained a hostile attitude, a hostile policy towards Iran. Now, at some stage, it has been the nuclear issue. At some stage, it has been interference in Iraq. At some stage, it has been the human rights. At some stage, it has been Iran's support for Palestinian struggle. But I think the crucial issue is that the United States or some U.S. Leaders have not accepted the reality of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the fact that that Iranian have rebelled against the Shah's regime. They have overthrown that regime, and well, majority of Iranians are quite content with the Islamic regime.
Mr. Zibak Kalam's talking about what maybe can be called a smear campaign from the US. Hassan Nafi, do you read it that way? How successful have both administrations in both countries been at in this, what maybe some could call a propaganda war, in demonizing the other?
As a matter of fact, I never thought that the Iranian nuclear program was the real issue. The real issue was the Islamic revolution in Iran. It has always been considered as a danger and a threat to the region and also to the world. The American administration has always thought that this revolution is the source of the Islamic extremism in the region. And there has been always a policy, first of all, of dual containment, and then when the United States has been successful of getting rid of the regime of Saddam Hussein, I think it did start to think of toppling the Iranian regime itself. So it was looking for ways how to really get the Iranian regime. And so I am one of those who believe that the Iranian nuclear program was just an excuse for the American administration. So the report did something which is very, very important, that it proved that there is no, as a matter of fact, there is no a nuclear program for armament. So, and the Bush administration did know that very well. So everybody knows now that
Mr. Nafi, sorry to interrupt you. Mr. Nafi, the US also seems to be instilling some sort of fear within its allies in the Middle East within the Sunni Arab states about Iran's possible plans for a Shia-dominated region. Is there any truth to that?
Yes, the United States has tried to play the Shiite-Sunni rift. As a matter of fact, in the wave of trying to build a coalition against Iran, the United States or the American administration wanted to coalesce the Sunni. There has always been some fears from the Sunni vis-a-vis the Shiite, and of course, after the American invasion of Iraq, the Shiite took over with the support of the United States. But after a while, the American administration became to recognize that the Iranian government did get some gains from the American policy vis-a-vis Iraq, and also from the American policy vis-a-vis Afghanistan in the same time. Toppling the regime of Afghanistan and toppling the regime of Iraq, of Saddam Hussein, helped Iran to emerge as a regional power, and it became more and more dangerous. So at this point, some of the Arabs became to fear the growing regional role of Iran, and so the Americans started to play the Sunni Shiite shift. And I think it has not been successful, because during the last war, the summer war in Lebanon, most of the Arab people, Sunni or Shia, they supported Hezbollah, because it has always been perceived as a resistant movement, regardless their faith, regardless whether they are
Shiite that's very
or not.
interesting. Many people have said that that was a proxy war between the US and Iran. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on in the program. Gentlemen, stay with us. It's time for a short break. When we come back, we ask, could Iraq be a source of rapprochement between the two bitter foes? Do stay with us.